Yes, you will hear Flipendo a lot in this game as well, but maybe that's part of the charm, isn't it? The Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets movie was released just a year after the first one, in 2002. Naturally, there had to be game adaptations launched alongside the movie, and Electronic Arts has followed exactly the same strategy as before. Get as many teams working on as many versions for as many platforms to catch as big an audience as possible. So, like with Philosopher's Stone, there are also 5 absolutely different game adaptations of Chamber of Secrets. We'll dissect all of them on the channel, but this video is about the PC version created by No Wonder. The retelling of the story where Harry, Hermione and Ron investigate the attacks on Muggle-born children while uncovering the mystery behind the Chamber of Secrets is a direct continuation of the Philosopher's Stone PC version, so I would urge you to first watch my video discussing that game if you haven't. For the purposes of saving time, I will reference it a lot. Link is in the description and YouTube cards. As always, we'll dissect the game using my Stasocritic system, starting with design. This is the most important category of Stasocritic with the biggest weight, 4. The way a game is structured and built is what influences our experience the most. And I will say from the get-go, Chamber of Secrets is an absolutely massive improvement of everything that we have seen in Philosopher's Stone. And I do mean everything. So what we'll actually do here is mirror the discussion structure of the Philosopher's Stone video and point out the changes and improvements. The core pillars remain absolutely the same, spellcasting and collectibles wrapped in the Harry Potter world. And the core loop hasn't changed either. You're navigating the environments, casting spells to get past obstacles, also you could collect the main or side objectives. The structure of the game, on the other hand, has seen some significant changes. Now, it's not as strict as this, of course, there is more variation involved, but on a broad level, Chamber of Secrets switches up between one-time plot-related levels, where you're dealing with the main mystery behind the chamber, and spell challenges, this time replayable, where you add new spells to the arsenal. And in between those levels, you can freely roam and explore Hogwarts as a hub world, with more secrets becoming available to you as you learn new spells. Quidditch, outside of the first mandatory practice, is relegated to an extracurricular activity you're free to do when you want, alongside the new Dueling Club side activity. You might remember I've mentioned that Philosopher's Stone doesn't feel like it implements the Harry Potter theme in its design. Nothing would significantly change if you'd remove the wrapper. Well, at the very least, thanks to this structure, that's already not entirely the case here in Chamber of Secrets. The pacing of switching up between lessons and solving a mystery while doing other school-related activities is inherently Harry Potter. It also helps that House Cup points you get for your performance in different levels and side activities are not totally useless this time. The main problem still remains. They don't matter for the ending. Even if you're behind Slytherin in the House Cup, you'll still get the same cutscene where they barely avoid disqualification for some reason and Gryffindor wins.
And now for the second place house.
It'll be you, Gryffindors. You're naturally second best. You won't steal the House Cup from Slytherin like you did last year.
After barely escaping disqualification, Slytherin
What? That means...
first place, and the House Cup goes to Gryffindor.
Yes! We did it again!
But still, there is some sense of competition involved because after every challenge lesson you will get a House Cup ceremony, and whoever is in the lead at that time will enter the bonus bean room. So depending on your performance, your rival Draco might be rewarded instead of you, and that's a nice touch.
How many times have you been in, Potter? Better luck next time.
Beans have more uses this time around than in the first game, where the final purpose was essentially to unlock a secret cutscene. In Chamber of Secrets, beans are an actual currency. Fred and George have managed to set up a whole bean-based economy system. You'll be able to buy ingredients for potions, not that you'll need them a lot, Chamber of Secrets is not a game where you'll get much damage. Also, you can buy optional upgrades for your Quidditch gear, entrance beat to the Dueling Club competition, but most importantly, you can use beans to buy wizard cards. And this is important because wizard cards that appear in the shop are those that you have missed in one of the linear levels. some of which become permanently unavailable once you beat them. It's a sorely needed quality of life improvement. If you've missed a secret during your playthrough, you're no longer blocked from completing your card collection, which by the way is 4 times bigger than in the original title, with 101 wizard cards to find. You don't really get anything for collecting everything except a bonus challenge room and a sense of personal satisfaction, but it's a really enjoyable activity. Not the least because the levels themselves and the secrets within them are much better designed. Broadly speaking, the level design principles in Chamber of Secrets are the same as in Philosopher's Stone. Each level is essentially a linear pathway with different optional secrets protruding out of it, but the way it is configured and paced is much more interesting. Main paths regularly tease the goal you need to reach, have you move through locations from different angles, and vary the challenges they present, but the biggest engagement in levels comes from discovering secrets. A lot of them are based on noticing things. For example, you can see an optional challenge star but don't know how to get to it. Well, if you start completing your main goal of pushing fire crabs onto a platform which would help you reach the goal at the top of the level, you might notice that the said platform at the bottom opens up a secret door as it is pushed down. Some secrets require you to think before casting a spell, like if you cut too many ropes you will not be able to reach a certain location. There are even little puzzles that have a single solution for the main path, but also alternative solutions to uncover secret areas. The developers have been really creative in how they attempted to circumvent one of the biggest flaws of the original that still stays in this game. The fact that each object gets a spell assigned to it, and all you really have to do, as long as you know the spell, is to point at the object and click the mouse. That is really limiting. There are some enemies, like fire crabs, on which you have to first use Rictus Sempra to stun them, and then Flipendo to push them where you need to. In practice, that's just you targeting them several times in a row. But because you can't cast several spells on a single object, that greatly reduces the possibilities of what can be placed on a level. A box that needs to be flipendoed is always a box that needs to be flipendoed, and it can't be anything else. But Chamber of Secrets manages to do a lot of creative things with that limitation in place. Interestingly enough, in the Dueling Club minigame you can actually choose between 3 different spells: Offensive Rictus Sempra, Defensive Expelliarmus, and a Stunning Wimble. But because Expelliarmus deflects the spell back at the caster rather than blocks it, the minigame transforms into a tennis match with Mimblewimble being essentially useless. There are other seemingly useless elements, like the timer in spell challenge levels. You go in, are told you have a limited amount of time, and then you see that this time is a whopping 2500 seconds. That's 40 minutes, which are replenished as you collect challenge stars. And while I know this game is supposed to be played by children as well, like I've told you in the Philosopher's Stone video, children shouldn't be underestimated. Sometimes the game doesn't even bother to wait before providing a solution. For example, before the Battle of Aragog even starts, Harry already says in a cutscene he should cut the spider webs down.
If I cut those support webs with Diffindo, I bet Aragog will fall into the pit.
The boss battles themselves are more interesting than those in Philosopher's Stone, again an improvement, but at the same time their design is pretty basic, requiring a single strategy in any given fight stage. But this fear to add challenge is best shown in the dynamic between our health, potions, and the damage we receive. I'm not even talking about making the player fail a lot, that's not necessary, but just something that would vary the dynamics of the game. Chamber of Secrets introduces brewing of health potions that you can do in any cauldron as long as you have the required ingredients, which aren't that difficult to come by. You can also upgrade your maximum health when you find enough bronze wizard cards. You'd think that these aspects would provide enough leeway to add something with higher chances of hitting or otherwise damaging you, but no. So as a result, the game just keeps getting easier as you progress, since the difficulty curve largely stays on the same level throughout the whole experience, while you're getting your health upgraded many times over. Back to level design though, what also helps is the fact that Harry retains almost all spells from the first game. The exceptions are Wingardium Leviosa, the levitation spell, and Incendio, the fire spell, the latter of which essentially has been replaced by Diffindo, the cutting spell used mostly for the same purposes. Having this base array of spells has allowed the sequel to have more interesting levels from the get-go, as you're not limited to only jumping. Which by the way is also an action much improved in Chamber of Secrets. The first game had this weird thing when Harry couldn't climb any ledge he gets to while midair unless he falls down far enough to grab it with his hands. Here, Harry easily gets onto any ledge midair. Also, the animations are much faster. And in general, controlling Harry is much more comfortable. Philosopher's Stone had 10 controls where Harry couldn't strafe. Here, he can, and it greatly improves your mobility. The camera has seen improvements as well. It doesn't shake erratically while you try to look around. When you cast a spell, the character and camera no longer stay in place. You target with the center of your camera view and retain your full movement, which makes spellcasting so much more comfortable. Even though you still can't rotate the camera separately from the character, because you can strafe, it is not a problem anymore. The only little issue with the camera that still remains from the first game is you not being able to look up and down while moving, but it's not that frustrating. There is a single little stealth section in Chamber of Secrets with the level itself really not designed for stealth at all. But because you fail not when you get detected, but when somebody actually catches you, you can just run towards your goal and nothing bad will happen. The broomstick in the optional Quidditch games is now on rails, so while you don't have full 360 control of how you fly, you have a better sense of speed, it is much more comfortable to play, and the game can provide more interesting situations with the path it sets for you, as you need to avoid bludgers and compete with other seekers while following the snitch. It can, but it doesn't. Out of 6 Quidditch games, 5 play essentially the same with a little bit of a difference in difficulty, and only the last one has a more interesting progression with the race towards the snitch going below the field, which is actually a very cool moment. At the end of the day, that's part of a bigger reason why I will assign a 7 for design of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, which is still a good score if you pause and read the descriptions. It literally took everything Philosopher's Stone has set up and made it better. Controls, levels, secrets, structures, it's a solid game. But it also is held back by the flaws it still retains from the first part. Like the spellcasting system, even though the developers have tried their best to build interesting levels around its limitations, the lack of depth in minigames, bosses that are better than in Philosopher's Stone but are still pretty basic, or a number of gameplay issues present that weren't big enough to warrant a special paragraph about them in this section, but still there was enough to affect the experience and therefore the score. Regardless, Chamber of Secrets is a great example of how time and iteration can achieve a massive improvement in quality which can't be understated. It's a solid game, and the jump from 4 of Philosopher's Stone to 7 is definitely a big one. Now, let's move on to context. This category has a weight of 1 because it is about things that enhance the experience but don't necessarily define it: plot, motivation, character arcs, etc. Even though Chamber of Secrets is based on the movie with the same name, we'll dissect only how the game handles context on its own, without the assumed knowledge from the source material. Though of course, this being the sequel, we also won't criticize assuming you have seen the first movie, especially considering that the PC game based on that one has transmitted the narrative in a really rudimentary way. Which is absolutely not the case here in the Chamber of Secrets. Granted, there are still some quirks that one will find weird without knowing the source, but as a whole, this time the narrative is built in a much more well-structured manner. Characters, concepts and plot threads are actually set up and have progression. For example, the message about the Chamber of Secrets didn't just appear on the wall. Harry hears whispers before it, so there's foreshadowing.
Come to me. Let me rip you.
What was that? What was what? That voice! It was coming from over there! Come on!
And Mrs. Norris isn't a victim that appears out of nowhere, there is a situation beforehand that introduces her as Filch's cat.
Argus Filch, the caretaker, was loathed by every student at Hogwarts. Some thought his cat, Mrs. Norris, spied on students.
The main trio doesn't suspect Malfoy is the heir of Slytherin just because the game firsthand shows his distaste for those born from non-magical parents, so we know why that theory would make sense for them.
No one asked your opinion, you filthy little mudbloods.
You pay for that one, Malfoy.
Likewise, the duel in club scene where Harry learns he can talk to snakes, which is what Salazar Slytherin was known for, happens after the scene where a teacher explains the legend behind the chamber. And this naturally leads Harry to wonder if he was sorted in the wrong house or not.
You've been wondering whether I put you in the right house. Yes, you were particularly difficult to place, but I stand by what I said before. You would have done well in Slytherin.
Oh my gosh!
Now, you might be listening to this and thinking that I'm just describing the obvious, that of course this is how stories should work. But here's the thing, it did it in the Philosopher's Stone game, where everything was all over the place. Chamber of Secrets actually has a proper structure. Sadly, there are still plenty of hiccups, none of which are too egregious to the point of things stopping to make sense, but they still affect the quality of the narrative. For example, Dobby is seen only in the beginning cutscene and then is never heard of again. Ron tells Harry that he missed the train to Hogwarts Express just minutes after Ron's family and literally every other Hogwarts student were in the same bookstore as Harry.
Harry, we've missed the train. The Hogwarts Express left 5 minutes ago.
Oh no! What are we going to do?
Ron's wand is never broken, which is not mandatory for the plot of course, but there is a scene where Lockhart tries to cast a spell at the children with Ron's wand and it backfires at him. So it's not clear why that happens. Or Hagrid giving a hint to follow the spiders without actually knowing that there's anybody there. Harry and Ron never talked to him. And while you can feel the friendship between Harry, Ron and Hermione more than in the first game because they have more active roles in the story and interact more, the themes of the source material are sorely missing. While Harry wonders if he was sorted in the right house, the importance of personal choice is never digged into. And while the word mudblood is mentioned a couple of times, and Harry being a Parselmouth is quite shocking, the theme of accepting those who are different is also not present. And that theme is very important. In fact, Rowling herself could learn something from it. You'd think that the person writing a children's book focusing on acceptance would actually know how to accept people, but it's ironic that the kids reading her work and watching movies based on it actually learned more than the author herself. So, all in all, if I were to open all the possible scores for context, I will assign a 7. The plot is structured well, enjoyable to experience, and there are some nice character moments too, but also not only the game is missing character arcs and exploration of the source material's themes, but there is a bunch of weird little things spread around the whole narrative that make it somewhat inconsistent. Now it's time to talk about aesthetics. This is another category with a weight of 1, as it's again about things that enhance the experience rather than define it, this time through visual style, music, sounds, etc. Most of my points related to this category remain the same as in the video about the Philosopher's Stone. Hogwarts is warm and magical, music is atmospheric and fantastic but still has been composed by a horrible person, and voice acting is, once again, okay. There have been some improvements in the area of UI, though I would say overall the feeling of being hastily slapped together still remains. But most importantly, many of the visual bugs were fixed, so Chamber of Secret looks more polished, especially because it retains a lot of nice little details that the first game also had. Characters can open their mouths now as opposed to talking with their lips shut, but honestly I don't know if this can be called an improvement. This is largely because the characters rarely move their arms or otherwise use their body language while talking, so it looks robotic. Let's open up the potential scores for aesthetics, as there's not much new to discuss. I will assign an 8. Aesthetically, Chamber of Secrets overall is an improvement over Philosopher's Stone, but there's still a number of issues that prevent the game from feeling exemplary in this area. It's time to talk about cohesion. This category has a weight of 2, as it's about how well the game connects all of its different aspects together to create a wholesome experience. Here we can open up the scores straight away, as there is really not much to talk about in comparison to Philosopher's Stone. I will assign a 7. Chamber of Secrets, thanks to its structures that varies between lessons and investigation, extracurricular activities and an explorable world, feels even more like a Harry Potter experience, but still there is enough sort of arbitrary elements that are in it mostly because it's a game. For example, how Slytherin every day have to go through a deadly obstacle range to get into their common room, and that prevents me from assigning a higher score. Let's get to our final category, emotions. This is the most subjective category of Stasocritic, but it's the one with the second biggest weight, 3. It's all about personal feelings, but at the end of the day your personal feelings are what matters a lot. And I think it's a shame that Harry Potter and Chamber of Secrets for the most part is a forgotten piece of video game history now. I know why it was forgotten. It's a movie tie-in, and this type of game is very rarely remembered globally. But Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, despite its flaws, is just a very good and enjoyable title. I've 100%ed it, got all the cards and finished all the activities and literally did everything I could in the game, and I just greatly enjoyed it. So if you open up all the scores for emotions, I will assign a 9. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets is just a very enjoyable gaming experience. It's time to sum everything up. After all scores and their weights are taken into account, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets for PC gets a final Stasocritic rating of 74. It's a good game. Now, if you haven't watched my other videos, I have to clarify that in the context of my system, 70+ means that the game is very solid, as it is increasingly difficult to get 80+ and 90+ especially. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets is really a testament to the power of iteration in video games. Philosopher's Stone most likely had a very short development time, which is why a lot of things didn't work out as well. But by taking that game as a foundation, the team at No Wonder essentially had an extra year to build upon what they have done before, and the results are great. In fact, if you enjoy this type of action-adventure games, I would recommend Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets even if you're not a Harry Potter fan. It's just a good game that you might really enjoy. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe and click on the bell button if you have enjoyed the video. A special thank you goes to my patrons. If you enjoy my content, please consider checking out my campaign at patreon.com/Varlance. Thank you very much.